Great to have you on the programme. You're going to be the first of the three candidates that we are going to talk to. So what's the pitch?
Well, very simply, I want to do the job because Scotland needs its independence now more than ever before, given this Tory cost of living crisis that is causing so much misery. And I believe I'm the person that can lead Scotland to its independence. I have the experience over a decade in government. I can unify both our party and our movement, reach across the divide, bring more people to support the cause of independence. And also, I believe I am the person who will bring policies forward that will ease that cost of living crisis and help to grow our economy. Both go hand in hand.
So you say there that you can bring more people to your side on independence, which of course is part of the jigsaw. But the other part is how you actually get the second referendum in the first place, because the courts have ruled you can't have one without Westminster's permission. So what would your plan be? Have a referendum anyway, or use the next election as a de facto referendum?
Well, look, two things to say. First of all, our opponents are desperate for us to be stuck in some kind of quagmire of process. I want to be talking about policy. It's very, very simple, actually.
Yeah, but the process is important if you're not allowed a referendum otherwise.
Yes, I will absolutely come to the process, don't worry. But if we build a sustained majority for independence, not where some polls put us at 51%, some at 49%, but a sustained majority for independence, then those political obstacles will disappear. Independence will become a political inevitability. So what I've said yesterday is I will restart, re-energise and grow the Yes movement and campaign from the bottom up to get out there to tell people and persuade them why we desperately need our independence. In terms of process, you're right, I've said quite publicly, I'm not wedded to using the next general election as a de facto referendum. I want to have a really honest, engaging discussion with our membership, not a one-off special conference, but a series of discussions to determine what the path forward is. But be in no doubt, if I am leader of the SNP, every single election, including the general election, will be about the issue of independence.
Now, we're going to play my interview with Bernie Sanders after our conversation. I just want to read you what he said on Scottish independence. He said, "I very much appreciate what the people of Scotland have done and what they're fighting for. My initial thought is they want to go their own way, they should be allowed to." You going to try and get him on the campaign?
No, I'd love to have Bernie Sanders on the campaign, but actually Bernie gets it. It should be for the people of Scotland to decide. That's not just actually Bernie Sanders' view. If you wanted to come a little bit closer to home, I've heard Mark Drakeford, who is a Labour Welsh politician who doesn't believe in independence, but has said very unequivocally that it should be up to the people to decide. We have a mandate, and you talk about what is the preferred route. Actually, the preferred route would be that Westminster doesn't deny democracy to Scotland, gets round the table, gives the Section 30 order so that we can hold that legal referendum, just as we did in 2014. We had two governments diametrically opposed on the issue, coming together, respecting the mandate we had and allowing a referendum to take place. They're not doing that. They're denying democracy. Okay. And that's why I'm going to ensure that we build the popular support.
OK, I wouldn't be doing my job properly to say that some people would question that mandate. Of course, you did win the last election in Scotland, but there hasn't been that sustained majority in polls supporting independence. I'm quite keen to talk about. I honestly
don't know how you could question the mandate. We have stood time and time again on a manifesto that says if we were to win the election, then we would have the mandate for a referendum. We've won election after election after election, including, of course, post-Brexit, where we said if Scotland was dragged out of Europe against its will, we would then
as I said, I wouldn't be doing my job properly if I didn't put the alternative perspective across. There's other things that I'm keen to talk to you about in the interview as well. Now, same-sex marriage has, of course, been a big part of this leadership race, with the views of your rival candidate, Kate Forbes, coming under scrutiny. Now, back in 2014, you abstained on the final vote on Scotland's equal marriage legislation. How would you have voted?
No, that's not actually true. So I voted at stage 1 for the bill. Why it wasn't there at stage 3 is well known, and it was well known at the time. I had a meeting, an avoidable meeting, to try to get a Scottish citizen who was in Pakistan on blasphemy, who had been attacked on death row, tried to get him back to Scotland. There was a series of meetings that were taking place between myself and the Pakistani government to get this individual back home. One of those meetings was during the stage 3 vote. But let me be unequivocal about it. If I was there, I would have voted for it. That was well known at the time. The fact that this is now being dragged up 9 years later in the midst of an election contest by some people who are supporting other candidates, I think probably tells you the motivation behind it. Anybody can look at my track record on equality and they can see where I stand on a number of these issues.
Yeah, you say, don't you, that you feel that it's been dragged up. The former Minister Alex Neil says that you were given cover to skip the vote and the meeting that you talk about could have been arranged another time. Just to be crystal clear on this, do you think that gay sex is a sin?
Oh, look, I've answered this question time and time and time and time again. No matter how many times, Sophie, you ask the question, I believe in equal marriage. I believe that people's marriage, if they are gay and they are married, that their marriage is no less, is no more inferior or less, is worth less than my marriage as a heterosexual individual. So no, I don't subscribe to that view. I think it's fine, by the way, I should say, for people to have their own personal faith. I don't think that we should bar anybody from office for having their personal faith. In fact, I'm Muslim. I practice my faith. I'll be fasting in Ramadan in a few weeks' time, for example. The difference I have is that I don't use my faith as the basis for legislating. I don't think that's what people want their legislators to do. They want their legislators to do what is in the best interests of the country, and I will continue that progressive agenda that Nicola Sturgeon has started and has built over the last 8 years under her First Minister, under her leadership as First Minister. I'll continue to do that, and that will help to grow support for independence.
You say there that you don't allow your personal faith to impact legislation, and you say very clearly there that you think that equal marriage is something that's important and something that you fully back. The question was, do you believe that gay sex is a sin?
No. If I can just be clear about that, that's not. Okay. It's not. I've been asked that question about 25 times, and I've answered it the same way 25 times. So I can't change what's in certain faiths. I can't change what's in Scripture. What I can tell you is the approach that I will take, which is that I will not allow personal faith to be the basis of legislation.
OK, one more kind of culture question, if you like, and then we're going to get on to your remit on health. Another question that I'm sure you feel that has been asked 25 times in the leadership race, but I'm going to ask it again. Is Isla Bryson, the transgender prisoner convicted of rape, is she a man or a woman?
Well, I think Isla Bryson is at it, if I'm honest. I think they're a dangerous individual, deceptive individual. I don't think they're a true trans woman. I think they're trying to play the system for personal advantage. Now, what I can't do, Sophie, is I can't change the law. The law, which has been the law for many, many years, allows Isla Bryson to self-identify as a woman if they wish. I think they're at it. I don't think they're a genuine trans woman, so I wouldn't describe them in that way. What I would say is we need to be really careful in this discussion, because what we can't do is roll back the rights for those trans women, the 99.9% who don't commit any crime, who live their lives like you and I do, not interfering in anybody else's rights. What we can't do is regress and decide to curtail people's rights because of one despicable individual. So no, I don't believe Isla Bryson is truly and genuinely a trans woman.
Dominic Raab was on the programme this morning talking about his move to say that if you are a trans woman convicted of a sexual crime or a violent crime, you can't be housed in a women's prison. Would you like that to apply in Scotland as well? Do you back that?
Yes, the Scottish Prison Service recently updated their policy. And by the way, they've been dealing with these issues really well, really complex issues actually for many years. I remember they were doing that in my time when I was Justice Secretary. But they've changed and updated their policy that any individual, any man that has a history of violence against women, they shouldn't be in the female prison estate, even during that kind of risk assessment period. And I think that's probably where some of the challenge existed with the Isla Bryson case, as you mentioned. The individual was never able to cause any harm to the female inmates at Cordon Vale, but they probably shouldn't have been housed there while the assessment was taking place.
Now, I just want to talk a bit about your record as Health Secretary. A&E waiting times have gone up. A quarter of patients now waiting over 62 days for cancer treatment. You wanted to recruit 800 more GPs by 2027, but in the last 5 years, you've only managed 113. Now, a panel-based survey for the Sunday Times today found, when asked to rate people's performance as government ministers. Kate Forbes had an approval rating of +14, Reagan got 3, and you got -16. That's not great, is it?
Well, what I'd say is that any health secretary in the midst of a global pandemic is going to face the challenges that we're facing up here in Scotland. In fact, those long waits are replicated in whether it's Conservative-led England or Labour-run Wales. So those are common problems faced right across the UK, and in fact in health services right across the world, because the global pandemic has been the biggest shock our NHS has faced in its 74-year existence. But what's different up here in Scotland? Well, what's different is the fact that the situation hasn't been made far worse by nurses and ambulance drivers going on strike. We have avoided strike action up here in Scotland, not by chance, not by good fortune, but because I've reached out, engaged with our trade union colleagues, brought them round the table, they've engaged in good faith, we've managed to compromise where necessary. And I think those are pretty good skills for any future leader or indeed any future First Minister to have. OK, just finally, Scotland v France and Celtic v Rangers both kick off at 3 p.m. What are you going to be watching? No, I'm actually going to be speaking to activists in Aberdeen, so I'm going to end up missing the game, I'm afraid. Both of them. What a nightmare. Thank you very much for being on the programme today. Much appreciated.